This is ogforums.com Real Talk, an unfiltered, independent perspective on Acumatica Cloud ERP. My name is Tim Rodman, and I want to mention three things in this pre-recorded intro before we get started. First, thank you to our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Paya. Paya offers Acumatica users a suite of industry-leading payment orchestration tools. Far beyond native Acumatica payments, Paya enables EMV NFC terminals for countersale. They offer a frictionless customer portal through their click-to-pay solution, and they support most e-commerce platforms and point-of-sale solutions used with Acumatica, such as One Retail and AcuPOS. And best of all, omni-channel reconciliation is available for all their solutions. Our second sponsor is DataSelf. DataSelf Analytics is a revolutionary reporting solution that enables organizations to make the most informed decisions faster and easier than ever. It uniquely simplifies business intelligence, empowers anyone to build and access dashboards, and delivers critical business insight when and where you need it. Our third sponsor is Aldrich Web Solutions. Are you a distributor using Acumatica, yet struggling with an e-commerce fit? US-based Aldrich Web Solutions out of Marion, Illinois, has 2 decades of experience helping distributors find success online. Our team of experts built the integration, creating websites that work effortlessly with Acumatica. With our reputation for swift customer service and meticulous attention to detail, we are the perfect fit for distributors needing online solutions. Please take a minute to support this podcast by clicking each one of the sponsor banners located at augforums.com/sponsors. Our sponsors track clicks, and every click helps to support this podcast. The second thing I'd like to mention is that I'm always looking for victims. I mean guests. If you use Acumatica in any capacity, no matter how small, I'd love to talk with you. Check out augforums.com/podcast and click the link near the top of the page to learn more about being a guest on the podcast. Third and finally, I'd love to see you listed on my Rolodex. Check out augforums.com/Rolodex to find out who else is using Acumatica and read the instructions at the top to see how you can add yourself to the list. All right, that's it for the pre-recorded intro. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. We are live today on Saturday, July 13th. It is 8 a.m., so I got up what for me is early for this. It's 8 a.m. here in San Diego. Yuriy, you're in Germany, right? So it's 5 p.m. there. I'm GMT -7. You're GMT +2. We're 9 hours apart. This is pretty cool. We're jumping on a live broadcast to do this. Hey, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for welcoming me for this a bit intricate challenge, but I hope it will be successful. But in case if anything fails, it's real life demo. So
we will succeed live or we will fail live. Either way, we're live.
It's good that we are not surgeons.
Yes, it's good that we're not surgeons. I like your analogy before when we were just talking, and I'll say what the goal is today. So the goal is to add extra fields to a screen in Acumatica. And I think of it as being like a VLOOKUP in Excel. I know maybe the customer ID, we're going to use that for an example today, and I want to VLOOKUP to get the customer class or some other information about the customer. And I want to be able to drop that on a screen. And I like your analogy that you think it's not like changing the engine on a car, but it's like maybe changing the oil on a car. Not as simple as changing the windshield washer fluid, but something that should be doable. So I hope that analogy holds true.
Let's see. Let's see.
And I'll also say, I like pointing out on these live broadcasts, of course, we're just getting something out there. Doesn't matter that we're doing this on a Saturday. We know that most people will watch the recording anyways. But point is just setting the expectation that this is not a high quality class or something like that. I will put in a little plug. I just announced that I got a room and everything set up. I will be teaching my building generic inquiry and pivot table class in Columbus, Ohio on Tuesday, September 10th and Wednesday, September 11th. So you can head over to augforums.com/GI course live if you want to register for that. That's a really well thought out set of exercises teaching you how to get to the point where you can build generic inquiries. This is not that well thought out. Yuriy and I are just we've done a little bit of prep work, but we're just going for it, right? So just want to set that expectation. There's a big difference between a class and a live broadcast, but I think there's huge value in doing a live broadcast, and they're a lot of fun. And also, if anyone is attending live, you can drop something in the comments. Please do. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, you can comment there. If you're on YouTube, you can comment there, and we can throw it up on the screen, and you can help kind of guide our discussion. So Yuriy, do you have anything else you want to plug and maybe tell people who you are and what you do before we get started?
Well, I can say I'm still Acumatica MVP, but for now, Acumatica, for developers, they made changes. Instead of Acumatica MVP, it will be Acumatica All Stars, and I just didn't know what it means. Yeah, and I'm always happy.
I hadn't heard that. I like that better. MVP to me should be one person. I like All Stars. Ooh, I like that better.
Yeah, and
I didn't know that.
So then we will have Acumatica MVP. Those are mostly who know Acumatica, like let's say consultants and developers who knows what they do. It will be more like All Stars. I don't know which one sounds more cool. You can say Acumatica MVP developers, when they gather together and they heard about those new label, it was like, is it good sign? Is it bad sign?
Or do I care? Yeah, I think, labels aside, the software companies are always trying to come up with labels, but you're definitely one of the best developers out there that I know. You've had a lot of experience developing on the Acumatica platform, and maybe also mention your company and what you guys do.
Yeah, so name of my company is AcuPower, and what we specialize on is if somebody has problems with Acumatica, which they cannot resolve directly through configuration, and you want to fine-tune it through the code, my team is highly specialized on that. I would, if to use another analogy, like while staying in Germany, I noticed people here have a lot of cars and everybody about car. There is a BMW brand and there is company Alpina. Like if you buy BMW, let's say for 50,000, if Alpina fine-tune it, that price will be 250,000. So the same BMW, a bit of fine-tuning, and suddenly it's 5 times more. So that's what we do. We fine-tune Acumatica to get all the power, all horses which are inside of this engine.
Another good car analogy. I like it. Your company is at AcuPower, acupower.co.uk.
Yes.
I want to learn more about you. And you, in a lot of cases, I think you might also be a VAR. Is that correct? Can you actually sell Acumatica?
Yes, we can.
But then in a lot of cases, you don't need to be the VAR on an account, I would assume. You supplement the VAR by just providing development services, depending on the situation, right?
Yeah. For now, I would say we are not great in selling a Acumatica license. For now, we have 0 sales of licenses, but we are quite known for getting out of Acumatica everything that someone may need, which is critical for them to get.
I like it. Cool. Excellent. So yeah, you're a developer extraordinaire, and I am not. I draw the line at Visual Studio. So multiple times I've like walked up to the very edge of the diving board and almost dove into Visual Studio, but I felt if I was going to do that, it would turn me into a real developer, and I just didn't want to go that far. So I'm more sit like system architect level. I focus on reporting, but then I have been getting a lot more involved in especially the low code, no code stuff. And when it comes to no code, of course, you're just checking boxes, but low code is, I think, what we're going to wind up doing today. And it's a gray area, right? You have to feel, when am I getting to the point where I need a developer and I just need to write a spec and send it off? Or where can I go ahead and take care of it on my own? And that's an area that you kind of have to feel it out, right? And so today I'm hoping that I get to add another tool into my toolbox and into the toolbox of everyone who's watching. But my standpoint is more from a business analyst, a system user, but I'm not a developer. And so my rules for you, and you already know this, is that you're not allowed to use Visual Studio, and we're actually going to use my local Acumatica development, my local Acumatica environment, which does not have Visual Studio connected to it, to make sure we stay on that path, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I can say this is very important part and very important limitation, because developer of Acumatica and business analyst of Acumatica and architect of Acumatica, those are different personalities. And sometimes I get requests from some customers who come to me and say, I want somebody who knows Acumatica and who is a developer in Acumatica. And it's usually I tell to those people, if somebody is good developer in Acumatica and he knows Acumatica very well, he becomes business owner. Because to be a developer, it requires one mindset. To be a business analyst of Acumatica, it requires totally another business mindset. Like business analyst, it means that person thinks in business terms. Developer, right. they don't think in business terms. They think like this button should do those actions.
Right.
If you want to have two in one, you will get another partner basically. But you understand that partner will ask not hourly rate, he will ask fraction of your company or options of your company. Are you willing for that?
Yeah, and I the dreaded response, from any developer is, like an Acumatica employee developer, is when they say it's functioning as designed. I might think of it as a bug, they think it's as designed, right? And yeah, there's always that it does what it's supposed to do according to the spec versus it does what I want it to do in the real world, right? Two different skill sets, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I can say, let's say from my point of view as business owner, I can say, let's say, if I do hiring, I try to understand what kind of mindset person in front of me has. If I see that somebody is I know 20% and I can figure out remaining 80 no matter what, this is good developer, but he will be terrible business analyst. Why? Because business is usually, especially during negotiation phase, they want somebody who knows the system at least at their level. And if they see somebody who knows 20% and he always say, I will figure out remaining 80, he's not professional. Remove him from my eyes. just give
that really is a developer mindset, right? It's like, I'll be able to build it. And that's the downside of being a developer a lot of times, is you just want to build something from scratch when it may already exist and you don't know about it, right?
Yeah, that's also true. But business analyst, it is somebody who knows at least 50% of functionality, and he can figure out remaining 50 by giving the way how it will be used. And if to speak about quality assurance person, this is somebody who knows 90%, and he or she can create another 90%.
They can generate a lot of test scenarios, right?
Yeah,
They're good at it.
Something that you will never never think about. I mean, like in the time when I used to be a developer, in order to avoid that, and this is what I also tell to my developers, if you get specs which is not very clear to you, come to QA and tell him, hey, have you read this specs? Yes. How are you going to test it? And no matter what QA will tell you, when actual time of testing will come, you will see how creative QA can be.
Spoken from a man with a lot of experience. Well, hey, I think I'm ready to dive in. How about you?
Same here.
Let's do it. So I'm going to get my screen shared here. And I guess when I first share it, you'll see this is what we're using to broadcast. So if you drop a comment, we can drop it on the screen here. And let me get over to Acumatica. Oh, I forgot I had all this stuff open. Let me close that out. And we're just going to start here. So this is probably not the best example because it's just a journal entry, but I wanted to start simple with a screen that doesn't have a lot on it already. And I wanted to start with something that everyone has. So that's why I'm using this screen. And we've got a journal entry. I've got one pulled up that was generated from the AR module. And you can see on the lines, I have a customer ID. And just to show how it's stored in the database, this is my little OG SQL product. And we're going to show you here that it's storing the 7048 ID, the behind the scenes integer value for that customer. And if we want to look at like the customer name, we can see that here in the B account table. So you can see there it is. There's that AA customer, and that's the AA customer we have here. So the first thing I'd like to do here, Yuriy, is I would like to be able to go over to the customer record for AA customer. And again, it's not a great real world example, but we're just trying to learn a technique that we can use over and over again in other places. I want to get the customer class of local and be able to drop that onto the grid here as a read-only field. Sound doable?
Yes, that's doable. And in order to do that, first step will be, can we have SQL query, which will show us customer CD, and customer class. Do you have it ready, or we can write it in your AUG SQL?
So I do. Oh, good. Yeah, good question. I did come up with one, and I did want to learn that technique as well. The more I think about it, would it be best just to jump right to that, and then completely skip equal?
I would like, my approach is usually I try to see data in database through SQL statement. And then it's usually I translate SQL statement into either BQL stack query or FBQL query, depending on my mood. And let's say if I feel nostalgic or if I feel modern.
I love it. And if you want, though, you could just leave it as a SQL view. Is that right?
SQL view, we can, but in scope of this task, we don't need to have SQL view. So let's just write some SQL query.
Let me show you this. I already came up with a SQL view that grabs the customer ID, customer name, the customer class, and then I even grabbed an attribute that's on the customer. You can see on the attributes tab here, there's a sales region that I created. It's got a value of New England. So I grabbed that value. And then I even went out and did a subquery to grab the AR balance for the customer. So if we did this, this is something I can do as a business analyst. BQL still scares me. Yeah, it kind of scares me. And it's so confusing to me. But SQL, I understand. A lot of people know SQL. what if we just did this? What if we just create the view and then add the view and get the fields that we want: customer class, sales reason, AR balance? Is that doable?
Absolutely, but just keep in mind that if you will want to certify it in Acumatica marketplace, or now Acumatica replace term certified with term approved, you may need to have a very good explanation why that should be certified, because it's usually Acumatica very pushy on SQL views. But yeah, we can do that as well.
So actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about that for a minute. So certified, my understanding is that you only care about that if you're an ISV product. If I'm just doing a customization for my own company in Acumatica, I don't care about that. What's your understanding about that, though? Do you need to care about certifications at all?
I would put it this way. When we develop product for single customer, we always consider who is this, like, is it a VAR or is it end customer? If it is end customer, it's usually we have some standards of code which we follow, and our approach is, if we can avoid SQL view, we try to avoid them, just from maintenance standpoint. And let me explain what I mean maintenance standpoint. From version 1 to version 2, when Acumatica makes upgrades, Acumatica drops some columns and creates another ones. And the SQL view, when you upgrade from one version to the other, SQL view is something that is often forgotten during upgrades, because SQL views is usually are used on reports and not often used in code standpoint.
Gotcha.
Like in reports and generic inquiries. And just from my experience, I noticed when customers test our customizations, quite often they forget to test generic inquiries, and they quite often forget to test reports. It is not to say that they are bad or wrong, but just like it's usually they think if code is written, then report lives in one universe, generic inquiries in another universe, and code lives in some third universe. But in reality, they live in Acumatica. And if Acumatica decides from one version to the other, move columns from one table to another, SQL does not give you error for SQL view that such like so-and-so change happened, like this column moved from this table to that table.
Right.
But from C# standpoint, we will get this error during compilation, and we will be informed like, okay, this column, like error message will be kind of, sorry for mentioning Visual Studio.
You can mention it. I'm just not going to pull it up.
Yeah, but basically Visual Studio will give error message that so-and-so duck class doesn't have so-and-so field. Gotcha. And then I will need as a developer to go and see, okay, so this was moved, like Acumatica gives release notes, and I will say, okay, this column was moved from this table to this table, and now I need to see what kind of joins I can build in order to get it. So at compilation time, I will get notification. If I use SQL view, we use SQL views, by the way. Quite time we use it very extensively. I can say we had one project, and I forget how many millions of records we had, but because we had millions of records joined with millions of records, when we wanted to manipulate it through the code, we get basically a screen just didn't open. When we use SQL views, we've been able to improve opening 300 times, which for me was like, okay, this is SQL view. And
so yeah, SQL view, you have more control over things, right? Whereas when the framework's doing everything, it's not necessarily the most efficient, but it's not the most efficient when it's pulling the data, but it is more efficient for upgrades and things like that, like you were saying.
Yeah. And one more point, SQL view, it means you will be either connected to MS SQL or to MySQL.
Right.
And they are
compatibility is an issue. Yeah. Yes. So I'm assuming SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server on this. And how about we do this? So Merck's saying keep it as simple as you can. from my standpoint, everyone has a different vantage point. From my standpoint, it'd be simpler to do the SQL view. How about we start off with that? Because it sounds like you want to start off with the SQL anyways. And then we could work our way into BQL or FBQL, depending on your mood. How's that sound? You can do it both ways.
We will need BQL or FBQL regardless. We will need it.
Okay.
But let's do with SQL view, because I just like you put so many efforts into that nice SQL view. I definitely want to see how it works.
All right, let's try it, and then we can try to like make it more robust after that, and do it without the SQL view. How's that sound? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start with. I think I can start this part off. I've already got I need to share my screen again. Let's see. There we go. There. Okay, so I've already got a customization project out here, queued up and ready for today.
Yeah.
And
do you know how I is usually looking for customization projects page in that search bar?
Tell me.
I type 3 characters, MIZ.
Oh, that's a good idea. Like that?
Yes. And you see.
Okay. I like it. Little shortcuts. I love it. So you can see I've got one out here. It's completely empty. And so I'll start with the SQL view part because I do know how to get that. So, all right, would it make sense? What I was going to do is create the SQL view, then create the data access class for it, and then you'll help me from there. Does that sound good?
Well, yeah, sounds perfect.
All right, so I'm going to take this, and I learned about this recently. I used to do this more longer command. It's like, if the object exists, drop it, otherwise create it. But someone showed me recently there's a create or alter statement, so I've been using that. And what that does is, if it doesn't exist, it's going to create it. If it already exists, it's going to alter it. You don't have to worry about whether or not it exists.
Yeah, starting from 2016 version of.
Is that what it was? 2016. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been around for a while.
For whatever reason, is in 2012, he will not be able to use it.
So if I'm using the AuxSQL product as a shortcut. I probably should. Let me just do this the official way. So I'm going to do this as a database script. So I'm going to call this my customer info. I'm going to paste this in. I should probably paste this in the chat. Can I do that? Let's see. Let me just post this really long thing in the comments. Pretty ugly, but at least you don't have to, you can see what I'm doing there. You don't have to type it all in. All right, so I'll hit OK. Oh, it doesn't like that name. SQL. And then, so what we would need to do is we need to publish this so that the SQL side happens. This will create the SQL view in the database. We need to do a publish there. As that's doing that, of course, just to cover, if you haven't done much with customization projects, when you do publish on this screen, it publishes whatever you have checked and it unpublishes whatever is unchecked. So if we wanted to unpublish this one, we would just uncheck it and you'd hit publish and it would unpublish anything that's unchecked. It always combines everything together, whether or not you're on this screen or if you're in an individual customization project like we are. If you do publish, it's still publishing all the customization projects together. It can't do just one. It has to do them all.
Yeah.
All right, so that's created. Then we need to create the data access class so that the Acumatica framework can see our customization. Sorry, it can see our SQL view. And as long as you give the data access class the same name as the SQL view, you can check this box. And when you hit OK, I love this because I don't write C# code for the most part. And you can see it pretty much does it for me. The only thing, I'm going to make some changes here. I'm going to call this SQL views. The idea is that all of my SQL views will go into the same namespace. Then I am always super detailed about my capitalization. So I want it to look exactly the way it is in the tables. And so my simple brain, I always think this is exactly the way it looks in the table. So is this. So is this. And then this last line, for some reason in C#, and while I'm doing the rest of this, Yuriy, maybe you can explain why the first letter has to be lowercase. I don't know why.
This is more, let's say, convention over configuration. But I believe this will be too technical explanation on how Acumatica framework works.
So for me, I would take this, paste it, and make the first letter lowercase. That's just my general rule that I follow. That way I don't think about it. I just do it, and I keep the names the same as they are in the SQL view. So now our names are all matched up to what we had in the SQL view, including the capitalization. And this company ID column, you have to have that in the SQL view because it's actually the tenant identifier. And you can see the data access class does that behind the scenes, but it needs that so it can know whether it's pulling data out of, in my case, sales demo or company to tenant. All right, I've got that, and I'll go ahead and hit publish.
And we need to do one more step.
Oh, did I miss something?
We need to have is key column set,
because
otherwise Acumatica framework will not be able to distinguish one row from the other. From Acumatica standpoint, if you have a duck class and it looks on differences by column is key. So if you have 5 elements in the list, but they have equal is key or they have no is key at all, for Acumatica it will be single record. And you will see a lot of duplicated records and like, why on earth?
I have done that before. I missed it again. And yeah, then you run a report and you've got this huge list of records and you're not sure why. So we need, I think it's just this. Does that look right? I always Google it and then I copy it from somewhere else.
Account CD. Can you show to me how that SQL view looks like, output of that SQL view? Like select from...
yeah. So the key depends. You need to pick essentially the primary key on the table. And for this SQL view, it's only returning one record per customer. So our ACCT CD is the primary key here because just by knowing the ID, you know which row to grab. There's not multiple rows for any individual customer ID.
Oh, okay, good. Then we are safe.
And that looks right? Just put comma is key equals true in this area here.
Yeah, and one more point, PX UI field, when it says display name in quotes, and there is ACCT CD, ACCT name, and so on. If you want to look it differently, you just type like, let's say, space, or you can write something like...
Yeah, and I guess since I'm normally doing this for reporting, I relabel it on the report. But now that we're doing this for a screen, I guess that would make sense, wouldn't it? So let's go ahead and do that. So how about we give it the names that are on the screen here? Although
we do that through PX UI field attribute in C#.
So you wouldn't do that here.
We'll
do that when we get it to the actual screen itself.
No. You can do, like, Acumatica has kind of policy, like recommended place. You can do this at duck class declaration. Then by default, Acumatica will apply caption taken from this duck class. So ACCT CD. But if for whatever reason you want to have another caption on your screen, you can modify through cache attached function on specific screen.
So in this case, if we want to just save ourselves from not having to do that second step, I might as well do it here, right? And then it'll automatically pick it up.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So I'm going to keep the names that are on this customer screen. I'm going to go with customer ID. So here's where you can put spaces in. Everything else I'll leave without spaces and the proper capitalization. and then I'll call this account name, which maybe not the best name, but I'm just going with the names on the customer screen. I'd probably want to do like customer ID and customer name, but you can make it whatever you want. Okay. Anything else while we're in here that you think would be good to look at?
Well, I would say for now not. Let's publish that and let's try to create a big wall query.
All right. And actually, before we do the BQL part, I'm just going to do a quick generic inquiry to show that I can see the SQL view in the system. So let me get that. Well, that's publishing. I'm going to queue that up here. Do you have any shortcuts for the generic inquiry screen?
No.
I do that.
But Genink looks quite good, in my opinion.
So I'm just going to do a quick test here. Let that finish publishing. Let's refresh this. So now I should have my customer info. And you can see that namespace is important because it gets put in the front of this. So I like, for my SQL views, I personally like doing SQL views so they all have the same beginning and they're all organized that way. And let's just make sure.
You wanted to select all fields or some specific? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess I should do that, huh? That's a better idea. You're keeping me honest, Yuri. I like this.
Oh, I'm lazy. The developers always.
Yeah, you're saving me work. I love it. So there we go. So I just want to prove that we can see the data, and I also want to show that this AR balance that we're grabbing should match our AR aging. Let's just make sure, and then we can go to the BQL. So for AA customer, if we run our aging just for AA customer, we'll be able to see that their total balance is 15,197.72, and our subquery is working because it's pulling the 15,197.72. Okay, so we've got some data that the framework can see now. We did it with a SQL view, so someone like me knows how to pull that data. Where do we go next?
Next, let's go to the screen which we want to extend.
Okay, so I want journal transactions.
Yeah.
So tell me if this is a good way to do it. I normally take the screen ID, then I go into the screen here, and I add it this way. Do you have a shortcut for that?
Let's try another approach, and you will judge by yourself which one is more convenient. Like this way, I'm using both, but I know somebody who use one. I know others who use another way. So let's go to the screen, journal transactions, and among click on customization, and here select project and select customization in which we should have this. Yeah.
Here's the one we were doing.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And then do I do edit project?
Yes.
Okay. So now it's opening a new tab. It looks like it didn't add the screen though. So what do I do next?
Now you need to click on customize existing screen.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe it should be possible to use it. I just forget this workflow for now.
Gotcha. And that might be one of those things where if you had Visual Studio hooked up to it, it might be a better way to do it that way when you're using Visual Studio.
Yeah, I'm spoiled by Visual Studio.
I know I'm putting handcuffs on you today without being able to use Visual Studio, but
yeah. Let's go back again to journal transactions still.
Okay.
And here click on right mouse button, click on column description in details. we want to see their data, right?
Oh, you want me to inspect element or
No.
right click?
Yes.
I'm
Or
right
yeah,
clicking.
inspect element, Control Alt, and
Like that.
yes.
Okay.
And here, click on Actions
Okay.
and customize business logic.
All right. So we're customizing the business logic. Now, before I click that, is it fair to say that the business logic, for the most part, or maybe all the time, is specific to the screen itself?
Yes. Yes.
Whereas this one, I believe, is customizing the data access class, which is the thing that we did in the customization project on top of the SQL view. And that's more of like a central thing that could affect multiple screens.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. So we know by going here, we're just focused on our journal entry screen. So we already had our screen added here, but this took me somewhere else and went into code and it created this journal entry thing here. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And scroll a bit down. No.
Okay.
So, like, in order to customize, details tab, we need to inform Acumatica that we need additional data access class to be connected to our grid.
Yes, this is what I think of as being a VLOOKUP.
Okay,
Like a VLOOKUP in Excel. That's how my brain thinks of it. Yes.
Okay,
I want to connect another table, essentially.
Yeah, I'm very sorry, but I don't know what is VLOOKUP. So
oh, here. Well, let me show you real quick what I mean by that. So let's say we've got, and I'm going to use this same data here. Let's do our module and batch number here. Is it my Excel file sharing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I see.
So I've got that info, and then I've got the customer vendor of AA customer. And I think of it like a table in Excel or a sheet in Excel. So then I've got another table, which is my customer data. So this would be my customer ID. This would be my account name of this. And then we're going for customer class to start with. So we'll drop in that. Now there's actually a better function now. I think it's, oh, I just forgot what it is. There's a new function in Excel that's better for this, but historically VLOOKUP was the thing to do. So if I wanted to drop customer class from this other table, I might have other stuff in here like customer number 1, 2, 3, etc. And I'm thinking like a business analyst here, right? A business analyst typically knows Excel.
Yeah. And
so
developers as usually don't.
So I've got a bunch of records in my customer table, right? And I want it to look up this value in this table and give me the result from the customer class column. And so you can do that with, I'll drop a customer class column here. And you can do that with a VLOOKUP function. So equals VLOOKUP, look up this value in this table. Let's see, when I'm working with tables, what's the best way to do this? Maybe like this. Yeah, in this table. And I want you to give me the third column. And there's this dumb last thing. I don't know why you would ever want an approximate match. I always do 0. Give me an exact match. So you can see it went over to the other table. It looked up based on the customer ID and it returned back local. So that's what I think of essentially what we're doing here and why I think of it as being like a VLOOKUP.
Okay, now I know. Thank you. Now I know more. I become more experienced in Excel. So of course, there is a joking term. Sorry, it's not joking term. In information theory, what is information is something that wasn't known before delivery. And
So it all depends on the receiver, huh?
yeah. So after learning what is information, I look on hard drive on all this information which is there, and like, sorry, but it is not information. All those bytes. Yeah. So VLOOKUP is very similar. Like in Acumatica framework, VLOOKUPs are programmed through joins and select joins, and we need to inform Acumatica that we want to extend its view with additional information. We need to find out from Acumatica which view we need to extend. And in order to do that, let's go back to journal transactions screen.
Okay. Oh, do you want to do the inspect element again?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so one question I have here is, this says GLTran, but when we did the customized business logic, it says journal entry. How do those two things relate together?
Yeah. So let me take a screenshot so I can, for me, it will be easier to memorize it. Yeah. So I took a screenshot. So we have like data class. It's basically, it shows like in which table we have from which table information in the grid appears. Business logic, it's a kind of tool which reads information from GLTran and through some additional rules figures out which records from GLTran to show.
Mm-hmm. And where do I see that connection? So like I can see on the screen that GLTran relates to journal entry, but then when we did the actions, customized business logic, that created our entry in the customization project. Where do I see GLTran in here? Or like, how do I know that journal entry is grabbing from GLTran? Is that in the source code area, or where do I see that?
Yes, you can see that in source code area. And let's go back to GL transactions screen.
Okay.
And you can click on view data class source.
View data class source. Okay.
A bit of patience. And here we go. Here you can see information. Here you can see that we dealing with GLTran. And it says PX BQL table means that we read information from table in database or SQL view. And we can see keys selected. Like we see a bit more information which Acumatica framework adds than what we have in database. That is because like there is a term impedance mismatch when like information is preserved in database in relational manner, but in C# it is in object-oriented manner.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a gap between those two, and this gap received the name impedance mismatch. For example, click on selected, region selected, and you see here we have selected and then PX bool, PX UI field selected. And basically term PX bool means that we see this column on C#, but if we go and look in database, we will not see column selected for GLTran. So question how this selected appears, it basically additional plumbing is made by Acumatica framework to make sure that when we want to process, when we want to use this GLTran on processing screen, we will be able to select which exactly GL trans we want to manipulate. So that's
And I
kind
think
of.
we see, oh, I guess in this case we don't see that. But yes, on other screens, we would see like a checkbox here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
For that, okay.
So selected is specifically purposed for processing screen. Journal transactions is data entry screen. So this specific column is not used on our screen. I mean, journal transaction screen. But this is kind of maybe overkill measure, but maybe not. It's like subjective. Like zero, if there is like if Acumatica wants to provide processing screen where you can go through each GL transaction, you may select them and use.
And then while we're here, I want to also, this should be showing me all of my data access classes. I should be able to see the SQL view that we created. Oh, maybe not. Maybe this is only the
No.
standard ones.
This is only standard ones, and
Okay.
and if to go deeply, when you install Acumatica, like is it on your local computer?
It is, yes.
It is. Do you know how to find local Acumatica on your computer and all of those files by yourself?
Yeah, so if I find my C drive here, I always put it at the top, so it's out of program files. It's just where I like it. And then I have, oh, not that one. You want me to go to this actual instance, is that right?
Yes, yes, exactly.
So this is my Acumatica 2024 R1. And so I have that here. Okay.
And here we have, 1 second, we have folder app, I believe code, if you can go there. 1 second, let me check.
I think we're looking for the one that has the modules in it, right?
App data. Go to app data folder.
Okay.
And
you're looking for the one that has all the module codes in it, right? I know I've seen
code repository folder.
Okay.
So basically what that interface which we seen does, it shows content of this specific folder. Like you can you can look through, like using through this source code, you can get chunks of what you have in code repository.
So would I go into objects, then I'm just following what I see here, then GL, and would I see GL Tran in here? Oh, maybe if I go in further. You think it's this one?
1 second.
It doesn't look like it.
You will be able to find it in in folder DAC, DAC.
So back up to repository or
scroll up.
Here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here you should be able to find GLTron.
Aha.
Yeah, and you can edit with Notepad. Yeah, here we go.
Okay, so this is basically showing me the same information. Like if we look, here's our selected one. So here's our selected with that code underneath it. It's the same information that we saw here. And because this is part of the files that are actually installed on the web server, that's why my custom object, SQL view object, is not showing up here. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So if you want to have your class being able to find here, you will need to play around with customization plugin to modify that folder. But this is not something that
I don't want to go there. All right, what I'm still missing then is I'm still missing, where can I see a connection between GL Tran and journal entry other than right here? So we've seen in the data class, would it be in the business logic here?
Yes, exactly.
So here, okay, here's journal entry. That corresponds with this, which corresponds with journal entry that we're modifying here. Okay, so now I'm in journal entry. Where do I see GL Tran in here?
Go again.
Here we go. So here I can see this is Bequel, right? Or I can see it selecting from GL Tran. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. I was just looking for to see the two in the same place. So here I can see the journal entry business logic is pulling from GL Tran. Okay.
Yeah. And take note what we see here. Like we have PX select GL Tran, and then we if we would have here something like PX select GL Tran and then closing sharp bracket, then Acumatica would pull all records from GL Tran.
Okay.
But because here we have a limitation, we say we want to get all GL Tran in which module equal to batch module and batch number. Scroll to the left.
Where's my bottom scroll bar? I guess I can't scroll. Let me just do this. I'm going to take this and paste it here. So you're saying if we wanted to just grab everything, our line would look like that, right?
Yes. It will pull all the records.
So this extra stuff here, am I able to put carriage returns? Will it matter?
Carriage returns will not matter.
So I could, just to make this easier for me to read, I could say where the module equals current batch module and the batch number equals current batch number. And then, oh, there's so many brackets. Let's see. 1, 2, where am I closing?
Those brackets are something that, like when I get started with Acumatica framework, those brackets just break my mind.
And I wish you could probably tell Notepad++. Like I like Notepad++ because like if I have parentheses, you see it'll put a red on the matching opening closing. There's probably a way to have it do that on the brackets too. But anyways, this is my Visual Studio. This is close as I get to Visual Studio. But okay, all right. So I get this. So then it's returning it as like an object called GL Tran module BAT number.
Yes, exactly. And
so this would be the name, essentially the name of the GL Tran table within the business logic and how I would reference it later, right?
Yes, exactly.
So let me see. Let me see it grab a field from there later. If I search for that, okay, never mind. That's getting above my head. It's getting cache, etc. I was looking for it just to take a field out of there. Never mind.
We cannot. I mean, we can get a field, but basically we need to inform Acumatica that we want to have GL connection between GL Tran and our duck class build. In order to do that, we need to rewrite a bit that statement, which you copy pasted. So if you can go to Notepad++, we can, let's use BQL. So instead of PX select, we will need to use PX select join. I will paste in.
Here, you want to use the AnyDesk and just connect and type it in?
Yep. Let me use AnyDesk for this purpose.
So Yuriy is going to jump into my computer and control it, since StreamYard does not allow that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to check, see if we had any comments. Not yet. Are you able to control it now?
It's waiting for image because we have two tools which broadcast your screen. It may take a bit of time while it will finish. Actually, it goes.
So I don't want to necessarily take us down a tangent. We could come back to this. Do you think it's relevant to coming back to adding the customer class to journal transactions?
I just want to use your SQL view because I believe it will be practical for many people.
Okay, so we are going to add, we're still on the path of adding the SQL view columns
Yes.
from that SQL view too. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know why I can't connect. Can you open this? Interesting. I don't see this.
Oh, maybe it doesn't like when we're broadcasting live, so that idea might not work, huh?
Yeah.
Let's try it one more time, see if it works.
Okay. Let me try. Oh, I get fatal program failure.
That doesn't sound good.
Yep. Agree. Oh, then it will be negative advertisement for any desk.
You can put it in the chat then, that's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe you already did, huh?
No, I didn't. Send to me, please, in chat doc class, which we have. I will modify a bit statement.
Well, I just realized with StreamYard, I don't think I can copy out of the chat. Oh, maybe we use this private chat. Will this work?
Mm-hmm.
Will this work? Yeah, okay, I could do it there. All right, so what do you want? You want this whole thing here?
No, I want doc class for SQL view, which you have.
Oh,
Yes,
this
one.
big thing?
Yep.
Okay, let me put that in the chat. It removes all the nice spaces, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks ugly. Okay, anyway, let me...
Yeah, this is the first time I'm using StreamYard to like really collaborate on the same screen, and looks like we don't have a great way to do that.
No problem. My customer info equal my customer info. What is? Can you go to Acumatica?
Trying to see if I can somehow give you control.
It's not needed.
Okay, go to Acumatica.
Yes, and customer ID. It is from B account ID, correct?
Here, let's check our SQL code. Yes. So B is actually coming from, you can see B account. I just aliased as a B, and yes, account
So this
CD.
Is account CD. We need to have B account ID as well in that SQL view.
Okay, so let's do this. And
And
I'll
we
show
need
you
to
my
regenerate. And we will need
yeah.
to regenerate.
So I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to use my OG SQL for this just to do it faster, so I don't have to do multiple publishes. And I'll show you my. I've been through this before. This is my duct tape, non-Visual Studio way of doing things. What I normally do is I'll take this, copy and paste the whole thing out, then recreate the whole thing so it still regenerates it, and then I only keep the new part, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do this again. And the only reason why I did that is so it would grab this section for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll put that in here manually because I already did the work to put customer ID and do my capitalization stuff, and I didn't want to lose that. So that's why I'm doing it this way. And I did my namespace and all that. So now I'm just picking up B account ID.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to leave the names here because I don't care that much about the names. We should probably put the is key on the B account ID, right?
Yes.
So in this case, it's a little different. This is pxdb string. This is pxdb int because it's an integer in the database, and it doesn't have any parameters, but it still goes within the parentheses. There's just no comma because I don't have some existing stuff here. So I'll just get rid of that. How's that look?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looks good. You will need to publish that.
All right, let's publish that. Oh, and I guess, yeah, so we already added a journal entry section, but there's not really anything in it. So it's not going to hurt anything. It should still publish without giving us errors, right?
Yeah.
We are an hour in so far, Yuriy. How are you doing on time? I think it's 6 in the evening where you are.
I have 27 more minutes. Then I will need to run, but I believe we will fit into this 27 minutes.
All right, we'll pick up the pace here. All right, that's published. Where do I go next?
Let's go to our screen, journal transactions, and just refresh that screen. Let's see if we didn't break anything. I mean, if that screen will be openable.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we didn't break anything yet. Inspect again this grid below and send to me view name in private chat.
This?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Then we should be. I send in private chat BQL statement.
Okay.
Copy this and
I'm gonna look at it here.
yeah.
Okay.
So what this says? We inform Acumatica that we want to extend view GLTran module BAT number with getting additional information. We say that we want to get from GLTran inner join on my customer info table, and we want to have connection between GLTran reference ID and B account ID column. In this
And
way,
is this, when I'm in here, so I'm in a PX select, is this always database table field names that I'm basically working with database, not data access class, or is it data access class names?
this is data access class names.
I guess that makes sense because here's that lowercase b that the data access class always wants, whereas the database is uppercase b. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Acumatica has a PX formula function, which allows to kind of like you can have, for example, like you can imitate functions like sum, average, min, max at database level or at duck level. And what will be the difference? Like some functions will be applied at database level and then just copy pasted to duck class during execution. Or another approach can be when values are read and then dynamically executed while showing on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah,
but this one seems pretty straightforward. Then
yeah.
where do I put this? Where do I go from here?
Copy that to clipboard and let's go to Acumatica customization. Source code and
sorry, here, right?
Yeah,
you want me to
journal
go
entry.
Here.
Yes, and here in like before this green area region event handler, yeah, click on enter and Control V.
I'm gonna paste that in there, and then I guess I'll tab it over. And you said the carriage returns don't matter, so I'm going to do this just for my brain.
Yeah.
You know, everyone formatting code gets very. Everyone likes to format things a little bit different, so I'm just going to do what makes sense for me, just so I can read it better.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay.
Yeah. So click on save and let's see if we'll be able to publish this guy.
Okay. Now I notice here while that's publishing, it's still called GLTran, or whatever it was called, GLTran module bat number. So is it somehow it was already called that, and now it's just got extra stuff in it?
Basically, we inform Acumatica that please like what Acumatica framework will do, it will see that we have GL tran module bat number in base graph and that we have it in extension. And Acumatica will see, okay, now I need to use GL tran module bat number from extension. Okay, this is
Looks like we're
nice.
overriding it.
Yeah. So basically, we need to make sure that we have the same namespace for my customer info. And no, not here. Let's go back to Acumatica. Yeah, close.
Is that here? Do we need
Yeah.
to add?
We need to modify. No. We need to modify. Like we have namespace pxobject.gl, but my customer info lives in another namespace. So just like, yeah, we can. By the way, yeah, you was like your approach was also fine. So we can say use and then namespace of your class my customer info. This will work. Yeah.
Let's see that. Okay, so this is called SQL views here.
Yeah.
Do I just put SQL views or do I put PX
Yeah.
objects or something like that?
Yeah, no, just SQL views. Yeah, save. And let's try to publish again.
Okay. And I guess there's another advantage of putting all your SQL views in that same namespace, because then you don't have to do that. You can have as many as you want in there. You don't have to keep adding additional using lines.
Yeah. So we don't see yet red stuff, which make
this is good so far.
This is the most nerve straightening moment when you modify code and then you try to compile it and it takes time.
Yeah, I think this is the biggest reason why developers like Visual Studio, right? Because you don't have to wait for this publishing every time. You can check for errors in real time, right?
You will need to wait anyway, regardless. Visual Studio, non-Visual Studio, you cannot avoid that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we published. Now let's go to screens. I mean, no, not here. Yeah, here. Click on this.
Before I do that, I just want to make sure that we didn't break the screen, and then I'll do that.
Yeah, you're a good student.
Someone taught me that about 10 minutes ago. All right, that looks good. All right, so now we'll go here.
Yes. And
now sometimes it takes a while to load. There it goes.
Yeah, and then open tab section, details, open it, click on grid. And now click on add controls. A bit further, add data fields, scroll a bit down, a bit more. Here we go.
Aha! Beautiful.
And
that's
question
the part I've always been missing. So let's try it. Let's do all three. Let's do customer class ID, sales region, and AR balance.
You need to click. Oh, even you don't need. Okay, scroll down a bit.
So it put them up on the top, actually. Here they are, sales region.
Yeah,
I'm not going to override names or anything. I'm just going to publish. Or is there anything else you want me to do in there?
Well, I just want to say that you can move them as much as you want. I mean, down.
Yeah, so if I wanted to, I could maybe put the balance. It probably makes sense to put it, where was the customer vendor? I'll put it after that. And then, of course, people can move things around on the grid themselves. This is just the default order, right?
Yeah.
Let's do something like that. Publish?
Yep.
I am thrilled about this. This was the piece I was missing, because now I know that with a SQL view, I can go out and grab whatever data I want. And now I know we want to back into, in the last few minutes, maybe at least talking about how you would do this in pure BQL. But this is awesome. I mean, now I know how I could drop any data that I want onto a screen. This is huge. And you're right. This is like changing oil. I mean, this is not super crazy. This part right here, a little little scary, but not super complicated. So yeah, I like your changing oil analogy.
Yeah.
That was the
Agree.
missing piece. All right, so that published. Let's take a look at our screen. And then, of course, I don't know what it's going to be by default, but while that's loading, we would just do the field properties. You know, it's a totally different ball game if you're going to edit data, right? But I just want to show data in this example. So we would, I don't know what it's going to do by default, but we would, you know, somewhere in here, I'll be able to make it a read-only field. I don't remember where it is.
By default, primary duck class is editable, and all addendums are read-only. So you will not be
So
able.
it should be read-only by default.
Yes.
You're thinking, okay.
If you want it to be editable, you need to play around with PX projection, and that will be tough.
And yeah, that I think still goes into the call a developer area of my brain.
Yeah.
This is cool. So yeah, I've got the read only. Now it looks like my sales region did not come across, but I can play with this. I have something to work with here. I don't know why this didn't come across by default.
Yeah, let's see. Well,
I must have gone to a different journal transaction. Let me go back to the one that we started with. Oops. Oh, interesting. This is now ABC Studios. And this, remember our old one only had a couple lines on it.
yeah.
Oh, I think it resorted.
It's resorted, and I believe we may need to, like, let's say if if I made some, let's say, wrong connection between GLTron and B account ID, yeah, we may have some kind of connection. So we're now approaching to stage of debug, like why.
Yes.
So this is,
you know what, when you need to go, I think I'll continue broadcasting and just get comfortable on that. But this is what I was looking for. I've got the customer class now. I've got the sales region. I've got that AR balance, which matches up to my aging. And not a great example because we're on the journal transaction screen, but I can do this now. We did this on a grid because I wanted to make sure I could do it on a grid. I can do this for header fields. And I think I'm going to keep broadcasting to play with the new toy that you just gave me. But this is amazing. This is awesome.
yeah. Well, I have yet 5 more minutes. So let's try to a bit of debugging, and then I will drop out of the call.
Well, I'll do the debugging without you. Maybe what we could round it off with is we did an example here where we're pulling from my SQL view. Now, I assume if we wanted to do this with pure BQL and no SQL view, this would just be a more complicated BQL statement, right? Like you were saying, the sum, we would need to have like grouping and summing to go off to the AR invoice table and get the balance and that kind of stuff. But essentially, I'd be doing it all in this statement here, right? It would just be a bigger statement.
Yes, exactly.
And so it just comes down to if you can write the SQL, which it sounds like you like to start that way anyways. If you can write the SQL, you know it can be converted to BQL. It just might be a bit of a painful exercise to do that. You just have to learn how to start mapping SQL to BQL. Is there any type of tool out there, like in the what's the the tool that developers use? What's that called?
Code conventions.
Acumatica.
Acumatica.
Or any tool like that. Is there something that I could just paste SQL into and it will like somehow create BQL? Or maybe ChatGPT is good for that, huh?
You can try
it. Okay.
You can try. Well, I can say I tried a bit with ChatGPT on that, and sometimes it is good, sometimes it is not. So it's kind of it make a good starting point, yeah, but it depends.
And I've heard this from a number of people who have started developing on Acumatica, and a lot of them say it's not rocket science, but it's a long process to get used to writing in BQL. Because what we just did was BQL, BQL, right? Now there's also FBQL, which is supposed to be a simpler flavor of BQL. It's not quite as powerful, but you said so you pick it depending on your mood, whether you write BQL or FBQL. Any tips on which path you go down?
For now, I'm more convenient with FBQL because it is, let's say, modern version, and it is not as cumbersome as BQL. Like, I believe if I can share my screen, I will show the difference.
And then look, I see you looking off into the corner. I think you need to get to dinner or something. So I'll let you go as soon as you need to go.
Yeah, I will share my screen, describe difference between BQL and FBQL. Sorry for showing Visual Studio.
No problem. If you could zoom in, though, it is pretty small. Go ahead and zoom in. All right, cool. Yeah, I can see that.
So this is BQL statement. Yeah. If I would make it FBQL, it will look like public. I will say select from. I will say gltron. Then I will say inner join customer. And then I will say on what kind of join, gltron dot reference ID.
Yeah, and I also like there in Visual Studio how you have the IntelliSense showing what's available, the colors. Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah, it's it should be here. Is equal customer be account ID, and then dot view like that. Dot view dot select dot view something. So and then to do some kind of formatting. So FBQL is modern version. When I compile, then this statement by compiler will be converted into BQL statement anyway. So behind the curtain, still this will be generated. So FBQL is what developers name syntactic sugar.
And then is it more limited though, or can I do all the same stuff that I can do with BQL?
There is stereotype that it is limited, but so far I didn't face this limitation.
Yeah, there's it might be more limited. FBQL might be more limited than BQL from a technical standpoint, but from a real world standpoint, so far it sounds like you can get done what you need to get done with FBQL.
Yeah, I can agree on that.
Yuriy, thank you so much. I've been wanting to know how to do this for years, and it really comes down to that little piece of code. But it was just I was missing it, so I really appreciate this, and I hope others out there appreciate it as well. I'm sure they will, especially those watching the recording.
You're welcome. Yeah, so I need to drop. Thank you very much.
I'm going to keep going, but I will catch you next time. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Bye for now.
See ya.
See ya.
All right, so I'm going to keep going here. This is live broadcast. Let's just get it out there. While I'm going, I might as well keep going. Let's come do some of that debugging. And if anyone's any comments to keep me from getting too lonely, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'll put them up on the screen and try to interact as much as I can. This is huge for me. I don't know if this is too technical for others, but to me, this little piece here is not too scary. And I think also for me, I'm comfortable in SQL. Maybe not everyone is comfortable with SQL, but for me, this is huge. And hopefully it's not too technical for others out there. The first thing I noticed when we did this was, I feel like this might be duplicating data, because I thought there were only 3 lines when we first did this. So to check that, I'm going to unpublish our customization. And I think this is, Yuriy was saying that for the particular thing we were doing, it would still take time in Visual Studio. But I think in general, you can see, like, even as he's typing the code, you can do a lot more in real time in Visual Studio. So for us, I just have to do a lot of publishing, check something, publish again, check something. But because I'm not doing tons of development, I'm okay with that. As long as you have a decently fast computer, it's not going to take too long. I'll try to hover down here and keep an eye on the comments in case anyone has any questions or comments. Actually, I'm curious if anyone wants to chime in. It looks like we do have 6 people at this point. If anyone wants to chime in, on X, are you bots on X? Are there real people watching this live? I don't know. If there are, drop something in the comment. Looks like we got Merck left a comment. If there's anyone still live, and maybe just give me some feedback. Mainly, I'm wondering, was this too technical, or was it something that you can grab onto? These X, I'm really curious if anyone's actually watching on X. I'm suspicious. But I think most people will watch the recording. Okay, so that's unpublished. So now you can see we had a ton of lines in here. I'm okay with this repeating as long as there really were this many journal transaction lines. Yeah, see, there were only 2. Okay, so we do have an issue here. All right, so where's our problem? So in the journal entry, this was pretty clean. I did like this. So I'm just taking what we had here in Notepad++. I'm just going to work with it now here. So we did an inner join on reference ID to B account. And since B account is our primary key, the account is key true, we only should have gotten back 1 record. Why did it duplicate our data? Well, I'm going to do some awkward silent thinking here. Again, that's just what you get on a live broadcast. We did want GLTran reference ID. That sounds right, but let's check that. I'll do inspect element on this. It is reference ID. Interesting. Well, I might not be able to troubleshoot this. I do think this inner join is interesting because I actually want a left join because I still want to get records that don't have a customer on them. But that shouldn't be the reason for all the duplication. I wonder if it doesn't like my sub query, which was this thing here. I wonder if that's what's messing it up. All right, well, I think I'm going to do this. Last time I did one of these on a Saturday. Oh, we do have an idea. Change to left join, okay? I will try that. I was wondering that. So just to make sure you are thinking this, left join. Let's give that a try. I still don't understand why the inner join would have messed it up though. But long as this fixes it, I guess it doesn't matter to me. I think for me, for the most part, I would always want a left join because I'm just looking to add additional information if it exists on the screen. I'm not looking to filter out any data that's on the screen. As long as this works, I'm okay with just not understanding the technical reasons why. Let's see if we still have 2 records or if we get a bunch of records. Now, yeah, see, we still get a bunch of records. It almost looks like it's giving me everything. This is going back to 2013. So it's like it lost the fact that I only want the records on this journal entry. And I don't know why. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with this offline. What I did last time we did one of these live broadcasts is I followed up the next day with a shorter one just to recap something that I had learned after. So I'm going to play with this new toy offline, and then if I figure it out, I'll just do a shorter live broadcast later today or tomorrow. But I really like this technique. I was just missing that BQL code, and especially if you're using the SQL view approach that I'm using, as Yuriy pointed out, you probably wouldn't get certified from Acumatica, but if you're just doing a customization for your local company and you've got someone, I think you're more likely to have someone at your company who knows SQL than you are someone who knows BQL. And so this would allow you to do more on your own. And if it's just for your company using Acumatica, who cares about an Acumatica certification? And then Yuriy also mentioned, just be aware for upgrades that you need to check your SQL views to make sure that the tables you're pulling from are still correct, the columns you're pulling from. I've run into that before, specifically with how I was pulling quantity on hand information for an item. But it wasn't, you just had to find the correct table to pull from and then fix it. So as long as you're testing your SQL views during an upgrade, using that SQL resource that you have internally, you're okay. It's still a safe approach. So I really like this. But I will end it here. Thank you for those of you who attended live, and hopefully you found it useful. For those watching the recording, hope you found it useful. And thanks again. And I will catch you next time. All right. Well, that's it for now. We'll catch you on the next episode of ogforums.com Real Talk. Thanks for listening, and take care.